Welcome to another episode of the Finding Serenity in the Midst of Chaos podcast. Today, we're talking about how to juggle time for yourself and homeschool at the same time. This episode especially relates to you if you feel stuck between your own needs and your kids and don't know how to take the next step towards your goals. You have big dreams but struggling to turn them into clear, manageable plan and feel like you're juggling a lot between your business, family, and want an easier way to be on top of things. Stay till the end because by the end of this, you will learn how to set goals to fit your busy life, discover how to turn those big ideas into small, achievable steps you can start right away, and feel confident and ready to take action even when things feel overwhelming. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome to today's episode again. Today we have our last guest expert of the year, and that is Fiona Sims. Hi, Fiona. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, wow. This has been so many episodes now with the guest experts, and you are one to finish the year off, and I think this is going to be a good one. But before we get into the episode, please tell our listeners who you are, what you do, and who you help, please.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Fiona. I am a homeschooling mum of two young children, 5 and 3, and I'm a productivity strategist. So I help parents to navigate business and children, even when they're around, tips, tricks, and everything to keep you going, even when your kids are around, so that when it comes to evening time and you would ordinarily be working late into the night, you don't have to because you can take a couple of hours and have it back for yourself.
Amazing. That sounds good. I'm going to be all ears today, even though I'm not a homeschooling monk, thank goodness. I'm sure I'm sure there are a lot of people who will need this help. And also, I've been reading recently quite a lot, even when you're working full time and your nursery calls in sick, you need to go and pick up your child, or you wake up, your child is sick. What do you do? So it's quite important to know how to manage our time and how to juggle all of that together and find time for ourselves, right? Because, if we don't look after ourselves, nothing else goes on. Exactly, right? But Philip, before we even get into that, how did you even come to do this, Fiona? Tell us.
Yeah, sure. So, when my daughter's 5 now, and when she was about 9 months old, that was when we kind of decided we wanted to home educate. So from
Okay.
that point, I knew I wouldn't be able to go back into a traditional job role, a 9 to 5, and going out to work because I would need to
Mm.
be home to look after the children who weren't going to school. So
Yeah.
I knew I'd have to start something for myself, and I spent a lot of time sort of trawling job sites, looking for those like golden jobs, the flexible ones, the ones you can just do whenever, and nothing really
Mm.
fit what I was looking for. Everything had some form of specific hours, or you would have to be on the phone or
Mm.
something like that. So that's when I started looking into doing my own thing. And I
Mm.
tried a few different things over the years. I've done like sewing. I like to sew, so I tried making baby clothes and I tried doing bears and stuff, but nothing particularly took off. But while I was doing all that, I learned really well how to sort of juggle the whole children being at home and working at the same time. So
Yeah.
when I got found out a bit more about the online space and I did a course and I learned a bit more about helping that way, I knew that that would be a really good thing for me to help other people with because I basically live it every day.
Yeah.
That's how I got to where I am now, is
Mm.
through my life's experience of, or so, well, not my life, my 5 years, my motherhood experience.
Well, it becomes your life, isn't it? When you become a mother, as if your previous life didn't exist. It
Exactly.
bec it becomes our identity, and I'm glad that you're helping other people. So, why do many of us actually struggle to juggle all of that and set goals to achieve? Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the biggest answer is just because it's hard. Like children take up so much of your time. Like they are so like all consuming, and it's really easy to sort of get lost in the whole motherhood thing. Like it's so easy to lose yourself and who you are, and put every single bit of focus onto your children naturally because that's what we do as mothers. But for me, certainly it came to a point in time where I felt like I wasn't sure that that was all I wanted to focus my life on. And
Hmm.
and so that's when I started sort of thinking about doing something for myself. But to get from the point of doing everything for your children and nothing for yourself to starting something, that's the point where people struggle with. That's the point that gets overwhelming because you think to yourself in your head, like, but I don't have any time to do anything else. Like I'm doing all this stuff and there is no time. Like there's no
Yeah.
time to do it. So like it takes a like quite a lot of mindset shifts from I've
Mm.
got no time to where do I have time? And it's about working with the time that you do have because obviously as a parent with children, you're not going to have as much time necessarily as somebody who doesn't have children
Yeah.
because your children are going to take up your time. So you kind of got to set your own expectations as well to know that you're not going to be going at the same pace as somebody else. Like
Yeah.
that you just got to remember that the small things that you do are going to push you forward, even if it doesn't feel like it at the time. You've just got to keep piling those tiny little things on top of each other
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get.
I'm gonna stop that. And I want us to ponder on this a lot. And I want our listeners to really ponder on this. You've hit the nail on the head because it's hard.
It is
There's no two ways about it, is there? It is hard. And we need to be graceful to ourselves. It is hard.
absolutely.
And you also said it's a whole mindset shift about how how much time you do have. I mean, it's easier to say, I don't have any time, therefore that's it. You're not even looking at it, you've dismissed it completely. But as you said, these things aren't really necessarily a matter of time as such, but it is more of a mindset. How do I look at the time that I do have? Everyone has 24 hours in a day. Everyone has different priorities, but what becomes your priority now? And that doesn't mean that your children aren't your priority anymore, but it means that you have a balance between all of that. And it's a shift in the mindset as to instead of looking at what's lacking, look at what's in front of you and how can you make the most of that. And I just want people to really digest this because it's always the same. We keep saying the stories, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. Then what are we manifesting? No more time for ourselves, right? So that becomes our reality. So it's great that you said that. It is about looking at what we do have and making the most of that. So how do we make most of that?
Yeah, so if we start with sort of first of all, you have to obviously know what you're aiming for. You have to set your goals to know what it is you want to achieve.
Mm,
And obviously you can set long-term goals and you can break them down smaller and smaller and smaller. And lots of people do that and that's a good way to do it, but I feel as a parent and a working mum and a mum with children around, you have to go even smaller. Like you got to go granular, like you've got to make your tasks so teeny weeny that you can slip them in just here and there wherever you're going.
yeah.
Tasks do take a bit longer and I normally save those for when the children are in bed or something, but the little ones, the things that I can get down really small, those are the ones that you need because when you find that your children are like playing with a toy or something or they're busy eating some
Mm,
or just those little bits of time where you would maybe find yourself scrolling on your phone or just find yourself sort of standing around or like looking around, what can I do next? Those are the times that you need to identify because when you've made your tasks so small and you've set your
mm,
goals and made your tasks to get to your goals so small, that's the times that you can slip them in. So
mm.
I do what I call a 10-minute to-do list. So I have a to-do list and I've got
Okay.
two columns. One side is 10 minutes and over and one side is 10 minutes and under. So when the
Okay.
children are off doing something like that, I can just go to my 10 minutes and under list and pick something from that task and just get out of the way while they're busy. And that way I don't have to just run through the whole list looking for, oh, what can I do now? What have I got time for now? Because I've already split it up in the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, wow. But having to split that up and turn it into those sort of columns, does that not take the time as
It takes a
well?
bit of time, but like for me, I feel like a, there's a saying for it, isn't there? A plan well made is half achieved, or something like that. Like
Yeah,
the time
yeah.
that you take to plan what you're doing is
Hmm.
almost as useful as doing the things itself because maybe
Yeah.
at the beginning it will take you a while to plan it and it will take a bit of time, but as you get used to it you'll
Mhm.
just be doing it, you'll be doing it quickly, you'll get to know what it is you're
Yeah,
takes
that's
this
true.
amount of time, what it takes this amount of time, and you can put them in, and if you find that it does take a bit longer then that's okay, you can just you can put that on the other side for next time,
Hmm.
or you can shift it about. But I really do feel that if you take even half an hour not even half an hour, maybe 15 minutes before you go to bed the night before to plan out your next day, just so you have an idea of what it is you're going to be aiming for, then that is you've won half the battle. Because there's so many days when I haven't done that and I wake up in the morning and I'm like, "Oh, I have no idea what I'm doing today," and then I just float,
Yeah.
not doing very much. And by the end of the day, I found that I've not done anything of use and I haven't been intentional with my time and nothing
Mm.
progressed.
Yes, and I love the word. I haven't been intentional. Intentional is the word that we want to be focusing on here. Putting the intention out there to do, use the time intentionally, use the tasks for a reason, not just for the sake of doing and not just for the sake of feeling busy, but doing with an intention to achieve something. And you're so right. When you haven't planned your day, then you even haven't set an intention, the time just keeps going and going past. And the cumulative effect of guilt and shame that comes with it at the back of your mind. I haven't done this, I haven't done that, I haven't done that. You know, you either spend the 15 minutes writing them down, or it's going to pile up at the back of your mind and keep bothering you. And the compound effect of that is probably a lot worse in your mind than just spending that 15 minutes, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I don't know about anybody else, but for me, when I do have a day like that and I am thinking, I'm getting worried because I haven't done enough work stuff properly
Yeah.
when I'm not being intentional. But then I'm also distracted thinking about the work stuff and I'm not really paying attention to what the kids are saying. So then I'm feeling guilty that I'm not talking to them, I'm not engaging with them because I'm worrying about that. And it's just a whole big snowball effect.
It is, isn't it? And I was going to say, being present with your kids is a really important thing. And especially when I used to work in corporate, I used to come home, and of course, once I closed my computer, that was it. I didn't even have to think about work at all. And I was able to be present with my kids, apart from the times that I was preoccupied with other stuff. But how do you become present if you're slotting in 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there? How can you be present? Do they not pick up on the fact that you're doing something else?
Yeah, so sometimes, some days it works really well, some days it doesn't work so well, but I think that's
Okay.
just the joy of parenthood. But there are a few ways you can integrate in that will make them not feel like you're ignoring them or doing something different. So one
Okay.
thing I do with them is if I'm going to sit down and do specific work, we'll do time exchange. So we've got little sand timers, and 10 minutes is about as much as they can do. So I set a timer for 10 minutes and I work for 10 minutes, and then when I'm finished working, we read a book. I read a book to each of them, or I do whatever they want to do with me for 10 minutes, and then we switch
Okay.
back again. So I'm in the room with them and I'm working, and they've got the timer, but they know when it's their time and they know when it's my time. So they know
Wow.
when they're looking at the timer, oh, well, I've only got, well, they don't know how much is on it, but they can see when how much time, I've
Yeah.
only a little bit of time left before mum comes and helps me do this, or before we can read that book, or they might pick
Yeah.
their book. And to be honest with you, sometimes they forget the timer's even there. Like they'll be playing and I'll
Mm.
still be there. They know I'm not gone anywhere. They know they can talk to me, but they'll just be doing their own thing and they'll get lost in their play, and I'll maybe get 15 minutes instead of 10. Or
Okay.
um, so that's a good way to do it so that they don't feel like they're being ignored. Like I'm always there
Mm.
with them.
Mm.
But the times when I'm slipping stuff in, that is a bit more sneaky because I'm just kind of like, I can see that they're distracted and I know they're probably going to be doing that for 5 to 10 minutes. So I can just do this quick. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes they got a radar, don't they? Like if you're on the phone,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
they just like, it doesn't matter what room they're in. They're like, they know you're on that phone and they know what you're doing and they're going to come and find you and they're going to shout at you. So sometimes it's a bit like that, but more often than not, it works quite well, especially when they know what's coming.
Yeah, I like that. You're teaching them that, when you work, but when you're not working, you're with them, and they know what to expect, and they respect your time based on that. And you're teaching them how to be and how to operate, which is nice. And you're showing them the respect that they deserve when you're not working. And that's just a very nice mutual way of respect and managing expectations and being intentional. Whereas if you just put them, yeah, just go watch this and I'll come back and whatever, and you never do come back, because we teach generally to people how to treat us, but you're also teaching your children how to treat each other, to other people, because they are learning from you that you're being respectful to your time, to their time, and and also you're keeping your word.
Yeah.
These are great values that you're teaching your children, and that's just yeah, amazing, and well done for doing that. And so okay, we've sorted out the kids, we've sorted out the work time. How do you find time for you? How do you build that time for yourself? Because you are human after all. And
Yeah.
you're not just a mom, of course. This is a horrible expression, not just a mom. You're not, you are your own person. How do you find time for yourself?
Okay, so this is the part where you actually have to be a bit strict with yourself. And you have
Okay.
to, so like, for example, before when I first started trying to start businesses, I would just like I would be so focused on everything in the evening, I would work till like midnight or something, and then I would get up in the next day and I'd be exhausted. So
Mm,
now what I try and do is the time that I make back in the day, I mean, I don't count it exactly. I did at the beginning, I don't anymore, but I just roughly what I make through the day. I might say, well, I've managed to get an hour's work done today while I'm with the children. So I'm going
mm,
to take an hour off what I would do tonight. So say like not I try and always go to bed around 10 because if I don't go to bed around 10,
yeah.
I'm useless the next day because I like to read a book before before I sleep. Um So if, for example, I've managed to get an hour done during the day, then I'll take that hour off from 10. So I'll stop at 9 and at 9 o'clock I'll either read more of my book or I'll watch some telly or I'll just do something for myself, have a bath. Like, but you do have to be strict with it because it's so easy to get carried away and then forget
Mm,
that you're supposed to be doing something for yourself. But and some days it doesn't like the days that I get less done, I obviously just have half an hour. So it's just slotting it in again when you can. But when I'm doing the self-care stuff, it's it's more like yeah, you just have to be strict because if you're not strict, you're not going to do it and then you're going to be stuck
mm,
again. But I also find self-care wise, it doesn't necessarily just have to be an evening thing. It's nice to have the evening time when the kids aren't there.
yeah.
But
Mm.
also like my daughter likes to climb trees and I like to climb trees. We just like to climb trees. It's something we like to do. So when we're out and about during the day, I often find that that is just like naturally a time when I'm with them that I'm obviously on downtime because I'm not, excuse me, I'm not at work. I'm not focusing on work when we're out and about. So we're naturally having downtime as we go. But in terms of the specific self-care stuff, yeah, I normally keep that stuff for the evening and I
Mm.
take off what I've done during the day. And I try very hard not to ignore it.
Well, yes, and that's true. I mean, this whole work-life balance situation, juggling, whatever. I mean, if you think about it as a big juggling thing, it becomes a thing. Whereas if it is something naturally built into your day, then you're not gonna need necessarily pushing or reminding or whatever.
Yeah.
Because most of the imbalance that we experience with work and life comes from not being able to do the things that we want to do and because we are too busy looking after and doing everything else. But if climbing trees is a good thing that you want to do and it feeds your soul, as it were, then why not? And you
Yeah.
build that into your day, and that's fine. That's you then taken care of. And alone time, you're reading your book, that's time for yourself, that's fine. It's just being mindful of what those are, identifying maybe in your 15-minute planning, what is it that I'm going to do for myself today? It doesn't have to be for hours. It can be for a couple of minutes of breathing and just looking up from your
Yeah.
computer, stretching or whatever it might be. That's not time for yourself. And I really like, again, going back to our very first point, this is hard, and give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
It's
Definitely.
okay, it's not the end of the world, but we can manage all of this sort of stuff. So that's kind of going back to the original point of it's hard, but we can do it. We can do hard things, right?
Yeah, yeah. Every day is a new day. So there's no point
Yes,
beating yourself up about what you didn't get done yesterday. You just
yes.
focus on what you can get done today. And if you
Mm,
don't, like if things like my children were ill this week, weirdly ill, like just like one randomly ill here, and then they were better, then they were randomly ill here. It was bizarre. But like this week, I had to give myself a lot of grace because I didn't get a lot done, and
mm,
and I did start to feel guilty about it. But then I was like, well, there's nothing I could have done. It was out of my control. Like the children
yeah,
poorly. They needed me, and and I didn't have as much time as I would normally have to get stuff done. They wanted to be close. They wanted to be near, and yeah, it's just about being gentle with yourself.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And if people are asking, so how do I stay motivated on this and to keep track on the goals, the overall goals, we don't want to set a too big a goal, but there is still a final focus, the outcome that we want to achieve, whether it's to build a great business, whether it's to, stay on top of your presentation if you're working full time. What is it that we want to do to stay motivated?
Yeah, of course. So there's two ways that I like to and I like to teach people to stay motivated. One is more reflective and one is more practical. So the more reflective one is to, like, when you feel like you're dipping in motivation, is to go back to your end goal again, your big vision, like
Yeah.
we're all doing it for. And really like sit with that, visualize it, think about it, write it
Mm.
down, whatever it is that brings it back to the forefront of your mind while you're doing everything. that that's what I do to get my motivation back up again. And from there you can also re go over your goals again, right back to the beginning. So
Yeah.
you're setting it back up so that you're starting with the smallest piece again, because sometimes you can make the smallest pieces, you can roll with that for a little while, but slowly they get bigger, 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 and you forget to make
Yeah.
them small again. So it's kind of just like resetting your mind back
Mm.
to remembering to do the small tasks and remembering what you're doing it all for. And my
Mm.
second, more practical tip is that whatever task it is I'm trying to do or I'm avoiding, I like to find like a podcast episode or a blog post or something about that specific task, something around that, because listening to other people talk about it in a engaged and enthusiastic way will rub off on you. So you, like, sometimes if I'm feeling like I can't do very much, I might go for a bath and put the podcast on. So I'm relaxing and I'm listening to the tasks that I'm trying to
Mm.
avoid. And it's just like it's ticking over in my head and it's getting me a bit more motivated. And then by the time I get out and I'm ready to do some work, I'm in that zone because I've been listening
Yeah.
to podcasts. And it's just a really gentle, easy way to sort of bring yourself back to what it is you're trying
Mm.
to do.
I love that. I love that. It's so good. I mean, when we are trying to avoid something, that's because fear is stopping us to take that bigger step that it thinks is going to take us out of the comfort zone or the safety or whatever. And that's just your brain trying to keep you safe. And the good way to fool that is to just drop it. Do, but remind yourself your why. Why am I doing this in the first place?
Yeah.
And the bigger goal. And I love that. Stay on the outcome without the attachment and just keep at the little goals that you can achieve every day. And I think that kind of this satisfaction of ticking things off your list, it keeps you not just motivated, but it reassures your brain there's nothing to be afraid of. I can do this kind of thing. And it also doesn't mean you don't have to know the 5 steps ahead. You just focus on today. Every day is a new day. And I can do this bit by bit. I love that. It's great. And what are some simple steps that people can take today that we want to remind before we go to start turning their big dreams into achievable little goals so they can just take these little steps that we've talked about every day?
Of course, of course. So just so working backwards, always working backwards. So knowing what your big goal is, working backwards from there. What do I need to do to get to that point? What do I need to do to get to that point? What do I need to do? And all the way down until you've got something that you can start with. And
Mm,
then just get started. Like, getting started is sometimes the hardest thing to do. But if you
mm,
get it down to something so small that you're like, well, I can just do that now, and you do it, and then you're like, well, I can just do the next bit now, and it just builds momentum and gets you going. And the same when you have a sort of a down, it's the same, just getting it back to the start and just starting all over again. Because I don't know, like, I definitely have days when I'm just like, nothing's happening, it's not working, but it's
yeah.
probably because I've just drifted off. I've not stuck
Yeah.
to the plan, and I've lost my way a bit. And it's just, yeah, honestly, I cannot express how important making the goals small is when you're this busy. Because if you don't make them
Mm,
small, you're not going to do them, because you're just not going to see where you can fit them in, and you're not going to have the time, and you're not going to feel like you don't have the time. And again, switching your mindset, instead of thinking I don't have the time, to thinking, well, where do I have the time? What can I do in that time? And where can I try and make a bit more time? Whether that's
mm.
using like the time exchange method, or making your tasks on your 10-minute to-do list, like either of those, and just getting started.
Yeah, and it's all about how we feel about anything, isn't it? In this situation, if you feel overwhelmed, then you're not going to go and make those little steps, and you're going to continue to focus on the overwhelm, the procrastination, and what was it I was going to say? Yeah, lack. I don't
Yeah.
have the time, I can't do this, I don't know how to do it, and whatever.
Yeah.
Or I have this much time. What can I do in that time towards my goal? Maybe go have a coffee with somebody, reach out to someone who can help me. Maybe talk to someone who's already done it. What did they do? You know,
Yeah.
all these little more intentional but small steps. And one thing that I want to also remind everybody is celebrating those little steps, because it's so easy to be hard on us. Oh, I haven't achieved anything. I haven't got anywhere. I'm not getting anywhere yet. The Rome wasn't built overnight, was it? And it
No.
wasn't built in a day. So we need to give ourselves that grace and celebrate every small win. Feels like, oh, we haven't got anywhere. Well, actually, if you looked back 3 years ago where you were, you've actually got made a lot of progress, but it's so hard to see. So one tip I can give to people is to celebrate those little wins, maybe at the end of every day. After you do your plan, this is what I do for the next day. What am I grateful for today? What do I achieve that feels really great, that just maybe came out of the blue, and I'm so glad that that just happened.
Yeah,
Even
no, that
even for the things that sometimes didn't quite go your way, because that's also happened for a reason. So, celebrating and making yourself feel good, because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing in a way. Because if you
yeah,
feel good, we'll do great things.
yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Celebrating the small things, especially when you're only doing small things and writing it down, like at the end of the day, what you've
Yeah,
done. Sometimes you forget what you've done, and
yeah.
like, good to have the to-do list and ticking it off because you can look back and be like, well, I did actually do quite a lot today.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. Fiona, this was a wonderful chat, and we probably can go on for hours, but I want to be respectful to your time and our listeners' time. So please tell our listeners where they can find you, how they can reach you.
Of course, yeah. I'm active on Instagram and on Facebook. On Instagram, I'm underscore Fiona Sim, and on Facebook, I'm just Fiona Sim. Um, I've also got a free download. It's called Break the Spiral. It's all about mindset. So if you're stuck in a rut of the negative thoughts and stuff, it just helps you identify them and challenge them and reframe them to get you back to a point where you're ready to get going.
Oh, excellent. That sounds amazing. So I'll put all those links into the show notes so people can find you and reach out to you if they want to. Fiona, thank you so much. This has been a rich and wonderful conversation. Thanks for being on our podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Finding Serenity in the Midst of Chaos podcast. If you love this episode, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and any other platform that you prefer listening to it. And make sure you share this video with someone who you think will help. And we will see you in another episode next week.